Okay, it looks as though we're live here. Good evening, everybody. Well, good evening here in Japan, at least. I'm John.
Perfect.
Yep. And Veronica, yes, if you'd like to
And I'm
introduce yourself.
Veronica, and it's daytime here.
Yep. One thing I think we can be clear about right from the start is there will be glitches, almost certainly. So we hope that we can get through the evening without too many glitches and that
Always glitches.
we'll just be able to get on with things. So where should we start then? We've got several questions. What would you like to start with?
Quite a few questions.
Yep.
Why don't we start with the question that asks about using can or could about asking a question.
Okay, yeah, I've already got that
Can
marked
I
as...
ask you something, or could I ask you something?
Right, right. Okay, so I'll just bring that one up. We'll get better at doing this as we get more.
All right.
More used to it. But there it is. Look, could I say something or can I say something? Which one is correct? Would you like to say something about that, Veronica? Or
They're both correct.
of course they are. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that they're both correct. As with everything, it depends on your situation, who you're speaking to, what, how formal the situation could be.
Right.
I would ask my family, can I ask you something? But I might ask a stranger, could I ask you something? But of course, there's always may.
Yeah. I guess I feel that yes, could is more tentative. It's more polite. Can be a little bit brusque, a little bit even seems a bit rude sometimes. So if we're politely asking someone, we'd say, can I please? All right. Can I say something, please? That softens the can by adding please, or just may I? So yeah, very simply there.
May I? Yes.
Yeah.
I think may is losing ground. I don't know, being part of the older generation, I still use it a little bit, but I don't hear many young people using it today.
Right.
I think it's off. It's on its way out. But could is definitely much more polite than can.
Right. That is, if I go down here, we've got, yes, now this one that I put as my second option, a second question, tentatively. I mean, we can do them in any order, but I think Veronica's coming back in here. Yeah, so the next one is, he said, what's the matter with you? I'll make them all a little bit bigger here on the screen, and maybe about that size would be good. So he said, what's the matter with you? Now, in direct speech, he asked me what was the matter with me, and this is actually not right. No, we wouldn't say this. Okay, that's not the correct way to say it, and I'll be giving you a fairly detailed little presentation on this in a minute. So he asked me what the matter was with me, or yes, basically he asked me what the matter was with me. That's correct. So rather than saying why is B also correct, we can take out the also, because B is not also correct. B is the only correct one there. We wouldn't say the first one. We wouldn't say A. Let me just get the layout a little bit better here. So he asked me what the matter was with me. We could move was. He asked me what the matter with me was. possible. Let me just take you through this. We'll need to take a look at, just give me a very little minute here. We need to take a look at the sorry, just give me a second. The construction of we've got a certain type of clause here, and we're looking at the way that it's constructed. So here it is. We've got the subject is the matter with you, the verb be, using the verb be. It would be different with other verbs, but using the verb be, and the complement is, well, we don't know what it is. The matter with you is something. We don't know what it is. So to ask the question, we put in the WH component, what. And the other thing that we do when we're making questions, of course, is we put if it's the verb to be, we put it before the subject. So we get what is, and then we get the subject, what is the matter with you? And that's pretty easy. That way we end up with our question, what is the matter with you? But if we put that into a dependent clause, for example, I think the matter with you, and then the is does not stay in the question position. I think the matter with you is blah, 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 blah. Whatever the matter with you is, I think the matter with you is something or other. Okay? So if we understand that, let's put that up in the corner here and take a look at what happens in reported speech. You get a dependent clause with a WH component. So he asked what? Okay, we need the clause here about what he asked. He asked what the matter with me was. Just like in a dependent clause, I think the matter with you is. The verb to be does not stay in the question position when it's in any kind of reported speech or dependent clause. So the alternative, he asked what the matter was with me, is also okay. English is not very flexible in its word order, but in this particular case, it's possible. Veronica still doesn't seem to have surfaced. There's something going on here. I don't know what this is. Some sort of Google workspace trying to give me some kind of message. So that's the situation there. And it looks as if we may have lost Veronica for good here. I hope not. I hope she'll be coming back into the meeting. Let's see what happens. What should I do? I don't seem to be able to get her back. She's there. She's there, but we can't see or hear her. So let's just come up in the feed saying which is better. This is my pen. Which or that or what I got from a friend. Yeah, okay. I can see Veronica saying she can't get in. So shall I leave and we both rejoin? See if that happens. If we can get that, she can tell me what she thinks there. But in the meantime, I've got a question from CY, which is better? And I would say, which is better? This is my pen, which or that I got from my friend. What is definitely wrong. Okay, so yes, she says, so I will. I'm going to leave leave that meeting there, end the call for everyone, and I'll rejoin. So yeah, this ad lib question that's just come in, the Just a minute now. Don't seem to want me to leave call. Just leave the call. Okay. I'm just going to leave the call, and then I'm going to rejoin and see if she can rejoin as well. And yes, admit Veronica. Okay, we should have her back now.
I am. Hello,
Good.
John.
Okay, you're back.
My goodness. My goodness.
Yeah, this is the online world. There will be glitches. That's the only guaranteeable thing. So okay.
But you've been doing well.
I did my little presentation with the PowerPoint there. Now we've got a question that's just come in here, and I think I'll just paste it in. You can see it in the chat there. Which is better?
Yeah.
This is my pen. What would you say? This is my pen, which I got from my friend, that I got from my friend, or what I got from my friend? I've just said that what is definitely out. We wouldn't use that.
No, this is the pen that I got from my friend. That is a great word for pointing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you think that you're going to point at something, you can use that.
Uh-huh.
Which is usually for some kind of whereas what is more when your choice know about it, then it's going to be the. This is the pen I got.
Right.
Remember I told you?
I told you about it. Yeah.
A pen. Well, this is it.
This is the one. Yes. Yeah. So it could be any kind of determinant. It could be my pen. It could be the pen. It could be a pen. All of those
For sure.
are correct. Not the usual one. The usual one would be that.
No.
That is the one. That is the preferred one. This
And
is.
if somebody is asking you about, say, for example, birthday presents or prizes or something, and they say, "What did you get?" I got a pen.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm not showing it to you. I'm not describing it in any way. It's just a pen. But later in the day, I want to show you.
Right.
Well, what do you know? This is the pen.
This is the one. This is it.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Nia Rendele has got a little comment here saying, talking about what we started off with, the initial topic of...
Right.
Oh, no, wait a minute, no, sorry, we haven't touched on this one yet. This idea about the present, kind of comment on that one, Veronica?
I was telling you about this a little bit earlier. Do you want to follow me and
you were telling me, but we weren't online at the time. So for the sake of the viewers,
that's it.
Yeah. So we've got this. Okay, we've got
my screen.
Right. I've got a nice comment here from Ray. Saying that which gives additional information, it gives a description, whereas that gives essential information. That's a definition. That's taking us back to the question here about. Sorry, which one is it? Yeah. So I think we could add that here. Which additional information? As that is essential information. And
that brings us to the relative clause issue as well, right?
Yeah.
Lots of famous examples, right?
Right.
We can have some things such as my sister. the soldiers, no, not soldiers, what is it? The sailors. The sailors who slept above decks.
Uh-huh. Oh, right. And then the sailors, comma, who slept above deck. So we've got defining and non-defining relative clauses, which again would be sort of roughly connected to this whole area.
Right.
So you'd connect this with defining and non-defining relative clauses.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So you've got things like.
And once again, that brings us to that being a pointing word.
Yeah.
Right. Pronoun. You know, elephants that live in Africa. Or sorry, elephants. Yeah, that live in Africa, as separate from all elephants.
Right.
Have big ears.
Right. And going back to
Optimistic. I have drowned.
Okay, the sailors who. So if you said the sailors who were sleeping below deck drowned, then that would mean that all of the sailors drowned because all of the sailors were sleeping below deck.
On that ship.
So the sailors drowned, and additional information about the sailors, they were sleeping below deck. Whereas if we say the sailors who were sleeping below deck drowned, then all of that is the subject. The sailors who were sleeping below deck. Only those sailors drowned. Other sailors didn't drown. Okay, so there you've got your defining and non-defining relative clauses. We'll probably be able to point you to a good link for that or something later on.
The defining clause is a little more optimistic, John.
Yeah, that's right.
You have a few survivors.
At least some of them survived, yes, in your gruesome example. All right, let's move on to number 6. I've read many websites about the present continuous, and they say when it's used to talk about a present situation, it indicates that the situation is temporary. And we've got another very similar question coming in from Rian Daly here, saying when the present continuous is used to talk about, yes, so sorry, I think they're probably asking for an answer for that question. So.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Well, I think to talk about that, you really want to compare it to a simple aspect. Okay.
Right.
So if you look in, so we're only going to be talking okay?
Right.
So in that sense, we had the present simple saying, I live on earth, but he might want to talk about just a temporary situation. I'm living on Mars these days. And really, there aren't too many present continuous statements where you wouldn't find some kind of time adverb, really, to clarify. And that's also because we can use the present continuous for so many different concepts that it's almost necessary to put in a time phrase.
Raoul is asking. Yeah, Raoul's got a couple of good questions here. The cases of Jaden and I or Jaden and me. Okay, well this is very simple really. You remember English is a language which is subject, verb, object. And I is subject and me is object. So if I did something, Jaden and I did something. Okay? If something happened to me, then something happened to Jaden and me. All right. So if it's in subject position, then it's Jaden and I. If it's in object position, then it's Jaden and me. Now, the only area where I think there could be confusion, especially for a Spanish speaker, is when you've got preposition. Yes, you've got the preposition, particularly the preposition between. Because in Spanish, you say between you and I. Okay, entre tú y yo in Spanish. Well, for us, it's between you and me. If we got a preposition in English, it's always followed. It's one of the very few rules that pretty much always works in English. After a preposition, you use the object or accusative form of the pronoun. So between you and me. All right, and that's what we've got. Okay, and I'm hearing from Raul that sometimes
there is one thing
yes.
with that, John. However, you know, now I hate telling students this, but I feel I need to because they're going to hear it. And according to the textbooks, Peter and I went to Italy as the subject is correct. However, you will often hear native speakers who aren't watching what they're saying use me in the subject position. Who wants ice cream? Me.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So not too many kids would answer grammatically correctly and say, well,
this is true.
Truth, little child.
Yes.
So, you know, if you're going to write an exam, if you're not a native English speaker, I'm sorry, you're going to be judged. So as teachers, we have to tell you, please use the Peter and I in the subject and Peter and me in the object. But don't be surprised when you hear native speakers saying me or him. Who broke the window? Him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Who did it? He. Instead of saying he did it, you say him. And of course, if somebody knocks on the door, and you say who is it, and they say it is I, then we're going to think, oh my goodness, who's talking here, because we just don't really expect people to say that.
Nobody said that ever.
Right. Now we're having technical problems, and I'm not sure what the viewers are seeing here all the time. So I'm hoping that it's not too. Oh. I think it seems to have smoothed itself over.
We have John.
Occasionally, it seems to freeze up. So okay, what should we move on to something here? What should we do here now? Is there something you'd like to talk about on the list?
Well, John. Sorry, when I went dead for a while there.
Yes.
Did you answer the question about what's the matter?
Yes, I did. Yes, the matter with you is, and I gave a little presentation using PowerPoint. So that one
said if a verb is followed by another verb, it must take the form of infinitive or gerund. I'm not quite sure what he means.
Well, I think
this is like, I think what he's trying to say, John, is, for example, if I okay, so we could say something like he wants, and you need to have an infinitive.
Right.
He wants to risk.
Right.
Well, now, if I'm going to use another verb type, planning, to suggest, going, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, this sentence is word salad. It makes no sense at all. But that's the idea. Want requires an infinitive. Risk requires a gerund.
Right.
Plan requires an infinitive, and on you go. Okay.
But okay, now I'm thinking more possibly like we've got a fairly simple, slightly simpler sort of setup where you say things like, I like doing something versus I like.
Where are you writing, John?
Right. Perhaps I should write on one of your. Yeah, I'll write. Yes, I'll write here then. That will make more sense, won't it? So we got something like, I like.
Okay.
I like. I like watching the children play. Okay, as against I like to watch the children play. Now you get quite a lot of verbs that follow this. You know, I like watching. For example, I hate watching. I love. Okay, you get this kind of area of, and then you get the you know, I hate to. Okay, and I love to.
Sure. So these verbs can take a gerund or an infinitive.
Right.
And there's a really small difference. And probably a native speaker will not be able to tell you what the difference is exactly, unless they're teachers or linguists. Usually, if we're going to use an infinitive with these kinds of verbs, we're a little bit more specific about the intention. So I like to watch.
And that if we say I like watching the children play, it's to do with our feeling about it. Whereas if we say I like to watch the children play, it's more a mental thing. It's a matter of principle, as a matter of kind of, in terms of my ideology, I like to see that. And so there's a slight difference there. But you'll notice that there are some things like, for example, I want to, it must be, it can't be, you know, I want seeing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's wrong. So again, that fits.
No, you can't do that.
So that fits with the general explanation of, you know, I want to do it, and again, that's a mental thing, and the idea that mental things, or things that come from a kind of the cerebral area of the brain area, or the, you know, and verbs of command like I demand to. Okay, again, you can't say I demand seeing. Okay.
No.
Is wrong. So we've got this kind of pattern in that sense. Beyond that, I did, and if it wasn't you, Veronica, it was someone else who gave a very good explanation about this that I think went a little bit further than that. And so I'm hoping that that's going to improve. But we did have very heavy weather here in Japan this afternoon, and
that can change things, can't it? Yeah. John, just to go back quickly to this gerund and infinitive thing, just to wrap it up, I'd like to say that we can have 3 different types where you can take in group number 1, both gerund are infinitive, and there's really a little change in meaning. It's not very big.
Right.
Then, and we have verbs there like, hate, love. Okay.
Yep.
In number 2, as you said there, want and demand.
Uh-huh.
These ones require one or the other, and that's it. It either takes a gerund or it takes an infinitive.
Right,
So,
right.
for example, want needs the infinitive, enjoy needs the gerund. Yeah. And you have a list there of possibly 200 words. Whereas in number 1, I would say the list is anywhere from 12 to 20 verbs. Here it's just infinite, right? It's really, really big.
Right.
Then you've got group 3, which we didn't talk about. These ones are like group 1 in that both are possible, but there is a big change in meaning.
Right.
This would be a verb like try.
Yes, try,
So
yes,
if I
exactly.
use try in the infinitive, it means there was some kind of glitch, some kind of difficulty, a problem.
Right.
Whereas if I use try with a gerund, it's fun. It's for the first time. I tried cooking.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It can be used in that
Indian food last night. Yeah.
And it can also be used, of course, to mean like, it's very hot in here. Try opening the window. So by doing that,
a novel idea. It's
opening
novel.
The window in itself
right.
isn't a problem, but it may solve another problem. And whereas trying to do that, try to open the window, means that opening the window in itself is difficult. Yeah. But yes, I've tried lots of things in my life. I've tried Aikido, and I've tried yes, with various degrees of success, like cooking pizza.
Yeah,
and things
we all
like
do, don't we? Yeah.
We try doing something. We
again,
give it
this
a go.
The group of verbs there is really quite small. I'd say maybe 12, and they all have different meanings. So it's not all that one's difficult and one's for the first time. For example, for us here, and these people probably don't realize we're giving them a little plug. But they've got a pretty good explanation and such.
You could just paste the link.
Let me just find it. Here it is.
Yeah, when you get it, just paste it in that same screen, and I'll take the viewers to that.
Right. Okay, let me just put it down here. There it is. It's called English Page. Okay. It's one of the older websites around. It started a long time ago. And they have, I think, 30 of those drop-down exercises. I don't really recommend those kinds of exercises, but their tutorials are quite good. The explanation for the 3 different ideas there.
Okay, so here's the...
And it never hurts. I think that, with some of these computer exercises, you're not doing your brain a whole lot of good, but what you can do is simply take a pen, one of these old-fashioned devices. I don't know if anyone uses pens anymore.
I remember seeing those in my youth.
You remember seeing those? And you can also take a book. Yeah, a book.
A book, yes. I think they still have them in the antique shops.
Write the exercises out, which is really good food for your brain.
Yeah.
Rather than just going click, 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 write it out. Write the sentence out. It's perfectly excellent.
It'll stick with you better. Yeah.
For you. It'll stay with you far longer than click, click, click.
Right. Good.
I
So
think your weather has cleared up, John, because I can see your
you think
image now.
people are seeing things better? Yeah, it was
Yeah.
the rain was earlier on, but my wife was complaining about a poor connection a little while ago.
Okay.
Okay, so let's take a look at very quickly, if we can, at. I think perhaps it's better if I put them in here. I'll just take this out, okay, and put
Yeah.
in Norio's question about adverbial clauses and the tense.
Get rid of that.
Oh heck! For some reason, I have to put it in like that. Okay, so you've got an adverbial clause of concession, and the way that the tense works there. Though he will no longer be the boss from May, he'll continue to have a great influence on us, versus though he is no longer the boss from May. Would you say B, do you think, Veronica? He's no longer the boss from...
I would never say that.
I think, I don't think it's impossible to say it from my
Not impossible,
point of view, but it's...
Let's just say I've never said that in my life, I'm sure.
You're sure you've never... He's no longer the boss. Well, if something is... When something is sure in our minds and we've sort of planned it out, we say, well, I'm no longer teaching from September.
You know, here's something interesting, just on a little side note. You know, it was looking funny to me. I just realized, you know what? I think we've got a North American British thing here.
Possibly.
I would say from May on.
From May on. Right.
I don't think I would just say from May. It sounds like it's missing something to me.
Right.
To me.
He'll no longer be the boss from May on.
Perhaps that's what it is.
Yeah.
So that's
I think
just a little interesting side note,
I think on is a good disambiguator. I mean, there are lots of things where we would say, yes, okay, you could say that, but as a non-native speaker in particular, you want to be clear. You want to get your message across as clearly as possible. So, yes, I would say A is probably the better sentence, and including on will help your meaning to communicate itself clearly. So,
there's another thing with though and although, okay?
Right.
For me, and now I don't know if this is just a personal thing, when I'm using that word as an actual adverbial, what would I say, with its full meaning.
Right.
Although although it's raining, although it's raining, I'm still going to go to the beach, okay? But if you say, but don't forget, take an umbrella though.
Yeah.
Okay, so I use though as that kind of discourse marker.
Right.
Not really as the meaning, although. When it's the meaning, I say although.
Yeah.
What about you?
So yes, I agree. I'd say something like somebody says goodbye, and I say, okay, I say bye, and then I'd say something like, I'll see you tomorrow, though. Okay, at the end of a sentence.
Yeah, like, but I'll see you tomorrow, though. Oh, yeah, that's right. We have a meeting.
If you're introducing a clause, though I'll see you tomorrow, I shall say this. Although I'll see you tomorrow, I'll say this now. For example, I think as an introductory.
That's it, when you're introducing it.
Yeah.
I think that's
although
it's the first word like that.
It's stronger and I think more appropriate as a sentence opener with the all bit. in there, although. Whereas though is something that you can tack on at the end as a sort of afterthought.
Right. Okay, so that's the though.
Right.
Now let's talk about the will or
Yeah.
is.
Would we use?
I think that's probably your question here. So he will no longer, or he is no longer. It's sort of like tomorrow is Saturday. So we can use that for...
We can use is for the future. Obviously, we can use the present for the future.
And I would also say, although he isn't going to be the boss anymore.
Going to, yes, using an ing form.
A bit more colloquial, isn't it? It sounds quite, I wouldn't say formal, but it's not casual, that's for sure. Yeah?
Yeah.
And I just wouldn't say be.
Yeah, I think
it gives us the sense that it's now, not from May.
Well, yeah, but yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it does sound a little bit odd using the bare is.
Now-ish,
I mean, if you had it with another verb, like he's not working here from May. Does that sound a bit better? Although he's not, I'm
not going to be. I'm going to put. I would have to put in will or going to.
Yeah.
Although he isn't going to be working here from May,
yes,
we'll still respect and honor him.
But you can say things like, he isn't working here on Sunday, but I'll give him the message, referring forwards to the future. So, I mean, we can. It's a question really of the parameters. It's a very sensitive issue, I think, in terms of what a native speaker might feel is appropriate. You say he's retired from May sounds a little bit odd, but he's not here on Sunday sounds fairly normal.
So are we bringing in time then? Are we making it closer to us? So tomorrow is Sunday.
Yes, that's true. It's
pretty close. It's pretty close.
That's true. Sunday is fairly close.
From May is like way...
It's way ahead, and it somehow doesn't seem so appropriate, does it? Yeah. Well, there's no logical...
May is Sunday this year.
Yeah. There's no logical grammatical reason, really. I mean, he isn't here on Sunday, but I'll tell him. He isn't working from May, but we'll still see him. They both follow the same grammatical structure, but the second one, perhaps I think the only difference is that it's much further ahead in time, and therefore it doesn't seem as if it's on the calendar in quite the same way as the weekly schedule.
I think that's it, and this is why it's really difficult to write these things in grammar books and whatnot, because there are so many different situations we find ourselves in life, and the human brain has the strangest way of dealing with time, and different languages have different concepts of time. Here's an interesting thing about time, John. I was reading this a couple of months ago. In most languages we think of, if you think of a road, the future is in front of you.
Yes.
And the past is behind you.
Yes.
Right? That's the sort of idea.
For most cultures, that's so.
Some linguists have found 2, maybe 3 obscure remote languages
Where it's the opposite,
where
yes.
it's the other way.
Yeah.
They think that the past is in front of you.
Because you can see the past.
That's it, exactly.
The future's behind you because you can't see that.
So there it is.
Yeah.
And you can't see the future.
Yeah.
And I think our idea is really the same. We can't see because the path curves a little bit like Robert Frost, two paths diverged in a yellow wood. Oh, look at who's here, Ray Lewis.
Yes,
Hi,
yes, Ray's
Ray.
been with us for a long time. Yes, yes, yeah. No, he's been.
I'm not looking at the chat. You see.
Yeah, he's been commenting in the chat, and he's made
wonderful.
several very useful comments.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
So yes, he's given us the examples like he won't be working here from. You know, we say that with will and will and won't.
But that's a will. That's a will, right?
And he won't be here on. He's not here on Sunday because that's something that's very much in the short term. I think we use. I hadn't really thought about it before, but just using the bare, simple present like he is or he isn't. We don't use it so much for things that are a long way in the future. We don't say I'm in Spain next year. We say I'm going to Spain next year, or I'm going to be in Spain next year. But I'm in Tokyo on Saturday. Well, today's Saturday, but I'm in Tokyo on Monday, or I'm in my office on Thursday. Those sound okay because it's the short-term planned future.
That's it. And like you said, tomorrow is Sunday. And also things like not so that students don't get some going down the wrong path here. We also say things like, I don't know, July 1st is Thursday this year. But that has nothing to do with the future. That's just a fact.
It's simply.
That's all that is.
And I think this tendency to use this simple form for the future comes when it's something. It's on the calendar. I mean, July the 1st is it's on the calendar. It's there.
Yeah, and if it's a long way into the future, it loses its factualness, doesn't it?
Right. Right.
It's too far away to be sure.
Right. Yeah. So Ray in the chat is commenting that we use tense in English to make a difference between what we experience, what we remember, what we imagine, and what we desire.
Nice. That's nice.
Great.
You've got to write that down somewhere.
Well, it's going to be there in the chat.
Like that.
That's going to take a lot of thinking about and processing, Ray, and perhaps we could get you to, perhaps you've obviously thought about that one yourself, so we might want to get you up here to kind of go into that. The future is a current plan or a current prediction. Yes. True. I mean, we don't have a future tense, and Ray in the chat is saying that the future is a current plan or a current prediction. Because we can only talk now about the future.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about what happened, but we can't talk about what happened. There's no verb ending, like in Spanish or other languages. You can't talk about what's going to happen in the future, what will happen. You have to use the present tense to talk. So you're filtering it through your present perceptions of the future.
Right.
Sense.
I'm just gonna write what Ray wrote there.
I'll copy it and paste it in there for you. Look.
Okay. Perfect.
It's and we're going to have to end this in a little minute.
I think we are. Yeah, we're running out of time, aren't we? We could go a few minutes over.
We can go over.
Let me get rid of that box for you, John. Okay.
Thanks.
In English, I think we use tense to distinguish between what we experience. So that's going to be past.
Or it could be we experiencing it now and remembering, obviously. Experiencing and remembering well, remembering is by definition from the past, isn't it?
Yeah, but I have seen the Eiffel Tower.
Right. We've experienced
That's kind of
it.
an experience. So that's
And it's a memory,
right?
yeah.
What we remember, maybe that's going to be past.
Has to be. We can't remember the future.
No, I know, but like a perfect.
But
maybe not.
experience is like we're experiencing it now as well. I mean, experiences. I mean, we can have experienced things in the past, but they are memories. What we experience when we talk about the past, we experienced it in the past, but it's our memory of what we experienced that we're inevitably talking about. And Ray again is kind of making that point in the chat. So,
and imagining is going to take us out of the indicative mood.
Well, it can take us in, but it can also put us into the indicative in terms of when we're talking about the future, what will happen, what we predict or suppose is going to happen.
Yeah. And what we desire, well, that's definitely going to take us into the subjunctive mood, right?
Right. Well, again, I'll put Ray's kind of summary of how those four work, and that looks like it might be a good topic for a future.
Oh, for sure. There's nothing more interesting than talking about time and how we manipulate it in our brains. We humans love to try to manipulate time, and I think language is how we do that. It's
I'm not getting...
definitely an interesting topic. All right. Well, is there one or two that we could finish with, John?
Okay. I'll just put this in here so that we've got it for the record. Okay. And yes, indeed, we've got this one I was checking earlier on today, so I'll put it in here.
Okay.
It's I think something that really there's no clear answer to, because all I got was lots of native speakers disagreeing about how they would say it. So
that always happens. Yeah.
I don't think we've got any clear answer, but it's an interesting question.
Okay.
So
tell me. What have
here
we
we
got
go.
there then?
It's this.
Okay, most of the grammar textbooks I've read so far say it's wrong to say, this is the first time for me to eat it. Yes, that is wrong. I understand. This is the first time I've eaten it.
It's the first time for me to do something. Does not sound terribly wrong to me.
Really?
The first time for me, this is the first time for me to meet this person. This is the first time for me to do something. It doesn't sound terribly wrong.
Okay, hang on. I did think about this, John. You're right. Okay. Oh, sorry.
That's
Let me
okay.
just put that down a little bit. There.
Right.
So maybe something like, if we look at the first one here, this is the first time that I have eaten it.
Right.
Now, if I put it into context, have you ever eaten sushi?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is the first time, and then I might put for me, but you know, it is the second time for Paul.
For Paul, yeah.
Maybe.
I see. So if you're contrasting you and Paul, or you and another person, right.
Otherwise, I'm not going to say for me.
Right.
This is the first, we're sitting down and we have sushi and you say, oh, so do you like it? Well, this is the first time I've eaten it. I wouldn't say this is the first time for me in that situation.
I guess, it doesn't seem too strange for me to think of saying it without a verb, you see. So, oh no, it's the first time for me. So then if I were to want to carry on, I would obviously... For me.
Okay, but no to eat it.
It's the first time for me.
That's it.
I
would stop there.
I found websites where there were several, discussions going on.
Yeah.
Some people felt as you do, no, that's wrong. And I sort of feel, well, yeah, it's not something I'm terribly likely to say, but I think I could I could end up saying it. I think there are occasions in English where your sentence kind of goes a little bit in a different direction.
Rambling.
Or you start a sentence with a particular grammar structure and then you kind of drift off into a slightly different one. And so I think you'll find...
For sure.
And I think one of those websites was saying, I found lots of results on Google search for the first time for me to do something, or the first time for someone to do something.
Really?
I think you'll find that and that's the problem that we're up against. If native speakers say it, then we're in a difficult position. We're in a difficult position telling other people that it's unless it's recognizably part of a dialect or something like that.
What we were talking about near the beginning, when people say we can't say it's wrong, right? So yeah, if you see this is the first time for me to do something a lot, it can't be wrong.
Right. Opens up the whole can of worms of what we call prescriptive grammar, where people stand up and say, you should speak like this, and descriptive grammar, which says, well, this is how people actually speak. So
this is the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. So I think in general, grammar has moved away from these, you have to speak like this, to observing the way people really speak and trying to find explanations for that.
Yes.
So I think I would stick with it's the first time I've eaten it, and I would probably largely teach that to students. If they said it's the first time for me to eat it, I'd say it's a little bit of a debatable construction, even among native speakers. So I would hesitate to say that it's completely wrong, but for goodness sake, if it comes up in a test, say it the preferred way. Use the preferred construction. I think that's all we can really do.
For exams, we can't help you there. We can't go into your country and tell your government that the state exam doesn't really work.
And it happens often enough. I mean,
so you've got to study what your teacher tells you.
Some of those questions that we get about passives, Veronica, you think, this probably came in some test,
It must have. It must have. It is just...
We would never use those passives.
It's like a virus. It's worse than COVID.
Well, look, I think we're going to have to wrap things up for now, people, and there seem to be a few more glitches. I've spelt cyberspace wrong there. Cyberspace somehow.
Cyberspace.
I put cyberspace.
All right.
But
well, listen, John. This has been fun. All right.
Yes. And I think we've got a few people.
And we'll get the glitches worked out. Don't worry about that. I think people are pretty relaxed about that kind of stuff.
Right.
Let's see what we can do about something in the near future.
Sure, we'll talk about it. We'll let people know. So keep your eyes open. Follow the channel, or follow us on Facebook or on Quora, and
Quora,
see you again next time.
Perfect. Okay. Bye.
All right. Bye now.